Hello and welcome to Gardening Australia and our very last episode of the year. What a massive year it's been. But get ready, because we've got a stocking full of ideas and inspiration for you to take away. Here's what's coming up.
I'm revisiting a very special garden that not only brings joy to its owner, but also to others.
How good is early summer? The anticipation of all of those flavours to come. It's also a great time to get some work done, and I'm going to show you how.
If you're keen to get crafty this Christmas, I've got the perfect project for you to try. Beautiful wreaths and hanging decorations. They're fun, easy to make, and best of all, feature living plants.
And I'm finding out about our fabulously colourful native anaplogs. What are they, I hear you say? Well, they have a duckbill for a mouth, they often have a shiny iridescent shell and very chunky back legs that look a lot like 1980s leg warmers. I'm, of course, talking about Christmas beetles.
Here we go. Oh. And Manu. Today, I'm in the Blue Mountains west of Sydney with my friends Jude and Manu, and we're on a pretty special venture. Jude Bennett is a young gardener, but an old hand on Gardening Australia, having shown me a thing or two about creating a backyard plant empire. We're joining forces with Manu Prigioni, whose inspirational Farm It Forward project cultivates unused plots of land, creating produce for the benefit of the local community. There you go, Manu.
Thank you.
And Jude. So what's our mission today?
Today we're setting up a tea patch for a member of the Farm It Forward community who's vision impaired.
We're also helping her set up some wicking bed planters.
Fantastic. Well, I reckon we've got our work cut out for us.
Yep.
I do.
It's going to be fun.
So what's the cardboard being used for?
The cardboard is a really good way to suppress the weeds underneath so that you can make a no-dig patch from scratch pretty much within a day.
Yeah. While Jude and Manu make a start on the garden, I sit down for a chat with Riri. Riri, why are Farm It Forward helping you and what are they actually doing?
I lost my eyesight, my vision, about 32 years ago, but I've never had the courage or the ability to walk on the street on my own. So when I learned that Farm It Forward was down the end of my street, there's no footpaths, you have to walk in the middle of the road, I took the plunge and started walking down to the farm and met Manu, and that's how it all started.
So, Riri, today, Jude and Manu have organised that we're going to build a tea patch for you and also some herb-raised garden beds for you to grow and harvest.
It's very exciting.
The two raised beds are looking a treat. Next, we need mulch for the path before we start planting up the herbs. How important is it for you to be able to get out there in your own garden?
Oh, it's very important for me. When you can't see, you tend to stay indoors a lot, but this actually will get me out. And Vision Australia always encourages us to grow sensory gardens, and I think that's just marries it, you know.
With the beds and wicking planters all done, we can't wait to reveal the new tea and herb garden to Riri later in the show.
If I were a hose nozzle, which setting would I be? Well, let's take a look. We'll start with jet. Angry person, bit severe, it'll blast plants right out of the ground. How about flat? Not doing much, no real point. Let's move on. Cone? Not for a while. Mist seems useless, but actually really good for watering in seeds and cuttings in trays. Flood, too much too soon. You may as well take the nozzle right off. Shower, well, there we go. Gentle, steady, reliable, wonderful for watering in plants nice and deeply, just like me.
How do I choose the best fruit and veg to save seed from? It makes sense that if you save seed from your biggest and tastiest fruits and vegetables, you'll get another generation of big, tasty produce. So it's worthwhile setting aside some of your best harvests to save seed from. If you're just starting out, peas and beans are a good one to save seed from because they nearly always grow true to type, which means that the young plant will look and taste just like its parent. When it comes to my pumpkins, I don't save my seed because I grow so many different varieties, and because they're so promiscuous, they cross-pollinate really regularly, so I couldn't trust anything to come true from seed. Now, when it comes to my cucuzza or New Guinea bean, I make sure I don't grow any ornamental gourds which are in the same family. So that way they don't get cross-pollinated by an ornamental, and these will be true to type.
Where does cork come from? It comes from this tree, Quercus suber, also called the cork oak. This beautiful tree has thick, spongy bark, which is resistant to compression and water. And this is what is harvested to make things like wine corks, but also building materials, shoes, and NASA space equipment. It grows in parts of the Mediterranean and Northern Africa, and under sustainable management, it can be harvested every 10 years from mature trees.
Earlier this year, Jane visited a colourful garden that was packed with flowers and charm. In fact, it was one of the most beautiful gardens we visited across this series. Well, she's been invited back to check out this season's display, and she didn't need to be asked twice.
Part-time florist and full-time home gardener, Patrina Burrell is as joyous and colourful as her garden in Melbourne's leafy northeastern suburb of Ivanhoe. Hello.
Hi, Jane.
Good to see you.
Welcome back.
Thank you. I'm really looking forward to seeing what's changed since I was last here.
You're not going to recognise her.
This really is a kaleidoscope of colour, isn't it?
You'll see a completely different garden now. Yeah. So much more colour and life, and this time we've gone bulbs and ranuncs and tulips everywhere.
It certainly is vibrant. Those tulips are amazing.
Aren't they incredible?
Yeah.
Look at this little one. I love her. She's a parrot, but just the colours. I feel like I'm in Hawaii when I see her. And this beautiful hot pink one here. Ooh. I love her. And then beside her we have the orange balloon.
Oh, I love orange.
Yes.
That's gorgeous.
Isn't she wonderful?
With the dark inside like that. My goodness. What gives you such success with the tulip?
Lucky, I think I buy them fresh from the farm each year, and the punch comes in the bulb all ready to go. And the soil, I prep the soil beforehand as well. So make sure I put the compost through it every time I turn the garden beds over each season. Put that goodness back into the soil. It's all about that soil health to get that beautiful looking flower.
Well, you've got a show and a half.
Come and have a look through the back.
Oh, I'd love to, thank you.
So this is the back garden, Jane.
Oh, my goodness gracious. It's
on your head.
Exactly. Gosh, the colour is just everywhere.
Aren't they incredible?
It's an amazing sight. What intrigues you about a ranunculus?
Well, I just love her en masse. I just think she just brings so much sunshine and happiness when you plant so many of them in a small space.
And each stem has a good 4 or 5 flowers on it.
Yes, and this one, Jane, look, she's in her 3rd week now. And they almost look translucent towards the end. Beautiful.
Wow. Now, this one is a beauty. It looks really more like a rose, doesn't it, in a way, or a camellia?
Well, that's it. Some people often say, oh, your roses are out. I'm like, they look so similar.
But they're a common old ranunculus.
Absolutely, the old-fashioned ranunculus. You don't see too many of them these days.
I love that colour, though.
Yeah,
and I noticed a really different one over here.
She's incredible. This one looks like she's dipped her little head in a paint pot.
That's right. Would you say that ranunculi are really simple plants to grow?
Definitely. I think so. You just pop them in. They need the sunshine. You don't need too much water. And then, wow, watch the magic appear.
That's great.
There's no real order. There's no real system. So I just pop in the tulips, and if it's tulip ranunc, or clump tulips, and then I just let Mother Nature do her work.
And that is pretty extraordinary, because Mother Nature usually does it pretty well, doesn't it?
She does, she does. So I know I do plant close together. That's because I want a really big show.
Ah, very good.
Yes.
So how many? How many
year?
bulbs are in here? This is just amazing.
8,000, Jane, 8,000 this year.
Oh, get on.
Yes.
Katrina's love of gardening began in her great-grandmother's garden in the New South Wales riverina town of Mathura when she was 4 years old.
And I remember looking up into her larkspurs and seeing her delphiniums and just this little dot. And I remember looking up, and that's how I sometimes think that's what I've recreated, this little fairy tale. And I remember walking through the flowers, and she taught me at a very young age, well, that's the joy of gardening. And then her son went on to be the gardener at the Mathura Shire. So he was a gardener. And then he passed that down to Mum, who passed that down to me.
And you've got a little memento of your grandpa.
Yes, his wheelbarrow. So I remember being young, and it would always be full of flowers out the front.
The tradition continues, with Katrina passing on the love of gardening to her daughter, Adelaide.
We often come into the gardens on the weekends now, and she has her own patch where she can grow whatever she likes, and she chooses whatever she wants to put in there. And she's watched me from a very young age, you know, digging in the garden. They've grown up around flowers, both of the children, but Adelaide in particular. So she'll then just take off, start weeding or start digging and putting in seedlings or growing from seed. Yeah, and she loves it, and then watching nature just grow.
And does she look after them when they've popped up?
She does, she does. She then loves to cut them, and she's always putting flowers by our bed, which is beautiful. Or as Mum taught us, we would always have dinner and there'd always be flowers in the middle of the table, which is beautiful. And now Adelaide does that, or if I forgot, Adelaide's gone and done that for us. And it reminds us the joy and the love that little posies can bring. You know, and Mother Nature, there she is.
Katrina also adores the trees in her garden. How amazing. What a sight that is.
Isn't she just a beauty?
Yeah.
Amazing. So she's my Mount Fuji cherry, and she's around 15 years old.
And people say, oh, cherries are so beautiful, but they're very fleeting. You know, they come into flower and then they're gone.
But that's what I love about her, Jane. 2.5 weeks at the most if I'm lucky, but for this spectacular show, it doesn't get better than this.
But then you've got other cherries around too.
Yes, I put them in the wine barrels, which I find they do well, because I like to try and create a room of blossoms around me on the deck.
On the deck, it's just lovely. So that's another standard.
That's another standard, yes.
That's a beauty, isn't it?
She's beautiful, Mount Fuji standard.
Wow. It really decorates this, just gives it a lovely feeling on this deck.
That's it. She's the centrepiece to the garden, I like to call her.
That is a sight for sore eyes, isn't it?
Isn't she a show?
That wisteria is something else. How old is it?
Oh, she's 40 years this year.
Oh.
Yeah. So I was lucky enough to inherit her.
And just look at those racemes just hanging down like that there. And the bees.
And the bees love it, absolutely love it. So you actually train her up the roof, Jane. I grow her up the roof because I want these long canes to come through. So I just let her go. It's also easy for me because less work.
Yes.
I just let her take over, and then around August, just before her little buds form, I pull them each one through, and I spend a good week up here cutting out all the dead wood, and then I bring her back and tie her up, and then I can put her where I want, like a little dance, like an installation. So you have to walk around her. She rules the roost here.
She does, but it's very beautiful. I just love the way it kind of forms a lovely canopy above you.
Yeah.
How often do you do flowers and do your floristry skills?
Well, quite often now. The wonderful thing about growing your own is you have your own florist shop, and I can make up bouquets. Just the tiniest little flower, Mum always said, will bring you so much joy. But more so the joy of giving. So she was always giving us flowers to take to the school teachers, or she's always giving. She'd grow her own flowers and pick them and give them away. So she taught us how to love through gardening.
Petrina continues her mother's gift of giving by delivering flowers to those she loves, spreading the joy, particularly at Christmas time.
Summer is a good time to multiply gingers. Now, this ginger was given to me a while back, and I love it because it has really curious flowers. It's called hot frogs. And I planted it underneath this custard apple, which is briefly deciduous, and it's grown so fast, I need to do something about it. So I'm going to show you how to lift and multiply gingers. And to start off with, we're going to prune it. The first step is to remove all the leaves, right down to the base. Now I'm going to use a spade to lift out a section. Within 3 months, this will have produced entirely new stems, and you've got a perfect new plant. I've cut off the leaves to reduce moisture stress. The leaves would have died anyway. When you replant in the ground, work in some compost and plant them so that the flowers are still on the top. Mulch it and water well. Because it's summer, these will grow back really quickly. In 3 months' time, you'll never know where it came from.
For so many of us, this time of the year is jam-packed. End-of-year celebrations, catching up with family and friends, prepping for Christmas. But Millie reckons if you can sneak in a few timely summer tasks, you'll reap the rewards in the new year.
This time of year, early summer, is one of the most exciting times in the garden. There is so much anticipation of the season to come, but it is also a fantastic time to get a whole lot of work done to set you up for a beautiful and bountiful season ahead. Now, some people don't love lawns. They think they're a bit of a waste of space, but I am not one of them. A well-managed lawn in the right position can cool the house and garden. It can offer habitat to many of those smaller birds that need seeds and grass, and it can also be a fantastic place to lie around in summer. True turf heads would laugh at my lawn. It's mostly cooch, but there's a bit of rye, some clover, and even a little island of achillea around the washing line. It's by no means perfect, but it does a great job. And this time of the year is the perfect time to give it a bit of TLC. One of the best things you can do for your lawn, particularly after a cool and wet winter, is to aerate it, particularly in those areas where there's a lot of traffic. It gets really compacted, and that means there's no oxygen down at the roots where the plants need it. The next thing I'm doing is raking out the thatch, which is all that built-up dead grass. And again, that just helps a little bit of air and moisture penetrate to the lawn. While I'm not fussed about weeds like the clover, the flatweeds have to come out because they'll spread and smother the lawn. It's also a really great time to fertilise the lawn while it is actively growing. And I use an organic fertiliser because, as well as providing nutrients, it also helps to build organic matter in the soil, which is what feeds the microbes and ultimately what keeps our plants healthy and strong. The lawn has quite a few holes and undulations, so to level them up, I'm filling them with a mixture of coarse sand and fine compost. Because the cooch is a running lawn, it'll quickly grow into these bare patches. The rest of the lawn gets a thin top dressing of the same stuff. Just going to give that a good water in, and at this time of the year we know lawns grow faster than we can mow almost, so in a couple of weeks it'll look really great. Be good enough to lie around and relax on. Not me, I've got work to do. One thing I do heaps at this time of year is propagate. Cuttings taken of lots of evergreen shrubs and herbs will form roots really, really quickly if you keep them nice and moist. And of course, I'm constantly sowing seed for the productive patch. Got this tray of cucumbers ready to go in the ground. And while your tomatoes can go in a few weeks earlier, you really need to wait for the warmest soil and the warmest part of the season to plant any cucurbits. That's things like zucchinis, pumpkins, and these guys. So I'm just going to prep that bed. I'm preparing the bed by forking it over and applying a layer of compost. There's heaps of worms for the soil and a few for the chook. I've got this frame because most of the cucumbers I grow are climbing varieties, and I grow a whole lot of different types because many of the most productive hybrids are gynoecious, which means that they produce only female flowers. Without some male flowers from their neighbours, they won't produce fruit. Along the edges of the bed, I'm planting one of my favourite companions, bush beans. You just soak the seed overnight in water and then push them into the ground a couple of knuckles deep. Next, some mulch. And last but not least, water. I'm being a bit careful. I'm trying not to wet the leaves, but it's quite hard when they're this small. But as they grow up, it's good to avoid it because it can encourage fungal disease. I'll give them a hand as they start to grow just to get a grip on the frame, but they should cover it in no time. And hopefully I'll have a cacophony of cucumbers before I know it. Fresh days ahead. One thing summer does better than anyone is colour. And whenever I'm planting food, I'm also planting flowers. I have a rule that for every 10 veggies that go in the ground, I should also plant at least one flowering plant. Edible, ornamental, native, exotic, they all get a place in my patch. I've already got some cornflower seedlings which are budding up nicely, but today I want to plant out the big guns, and that is the dahlias. At the end of autumn, I lift the tubers and store them in the sheds. Then early spring they get potted up, and now they're absolutely itching to get back in the patch. This is such a beautiful time to be in the garden. Those long summer days give you enough time to get all the jobs done and then enjoy it. What a good girl.
Okay, you know it, I know it, and Tammy knows it. It's time to tiss the joint up. And what better way to do it than with your favourite plants?
Indoor plants add colour, texture and beauty to a home, and there's lots of different ways to use them, which is why when you're putting up the decorations this festive season, it's a great idea to add a little extra sparkle with some plants. It's easy to do, and I'll show you how to make some amazing decorations featuring plants, including a wreath and some hanging living baubles. Let's start with a wreath. For this, you'll need a frame. You can use a wire one, buy some pre-made ones like this grapevine, or even make one out of cardboard. It all depends on your design, what you may have around the home, or what you want to buy. I'm using these embroidery hoops. They're cheap, sturdy, and make great plant hangers. Plus, they're actually made up of 2 hoops, so you can come up with some pretty creative ways to attach your plants. Let's look at the plants I'll be using. These are tillandsias, and they make great indoor decorations because they don't need any soil at all. In nature, they just pop up on rocks or on branches, making a home wherever they can. There are lots of different species and cultivars, with slight variations in leaves, forms, flowers, and tolerances. Tillandsia ionantha is one of the most common species, and they're prolific clumpers, which means they produce lots of pups. There are many cultivars and hybrids, like Peachy Pink and Fuego. As they mature and flower, they produce flushes of colour, usually in gorgeous pinks and reds. Some other great plants you can use are bromeliads. Like tillandsias, they're epiphytes, so they grow in trees without any soil. These neoregelias are perfect because they're colourful and small too. Succulents are also great. They come in lots of different colours, textures and sizes. Simply take a few cuttings from established plants. They'll go without water and soil for a little while, but longer term, you'll want to stick them in a pot or in the garden. To make the wreath, I'm using tillandsias and succulents. There are no rules, but it's a good idea to start with a plant as a central feature and then arrange the others on either side. Go with what you think looks good, plus you can always rearrange them. Now that I'm happy with the design, I'm going to attach them with a bit of floral wire and florist glue, which is non-toxic for plants. It's important to use a plant-safe clear adhesive. A hot glue gun, letting it cool a bit first, or silicone works well. Don't use general superglues as they can harm plants. That's looking pretty good. But to make it extra Christmassy, finish it off with a bow. Finally, tie some fishing line or string to the top and hang wherever you want it, on a door or a wall. For the second wreath, I'm using one made out of dried vines. These are great because they've got gaps that you can tuck the plants into or even pass through string and wire. I'm featuring some Neoregelia bromeliads. They're such beautiful plants and their complementary colours and patterns make a striking arrangement. Now for some hanging baubles. You can use smaller hoops to create lots of dangly decorations to hang on your tree or around the house. I'm winding macrame rope around the inner hoop, which is then secured by being clamped in place by the larger outer hoop. The design is finished off with a couple of cute little tillandsias. Here's another idea, a tiny terracotta pot. I'm going to hot glue it to the base of the hoop before adding some plants. This small succulent makes a good temporary decoration. Cute, huh? But if you'd like it to last longer, simply seal the hole in the bottom of the pot and add some water. Finish off with some dangling Spanish moss and some bright ribbon. Remember that they're living plants, so keep them happy with plenty of bright light, but they can be moved into more shade for short periods. They can also survive outdoors, for example on the front door, but never in direct hot sun. It's best to keep these bromeliads moist, so spritz them occasionally. These wreaths and hanging decorations are alive with plants and the spirit of the season. They make a great family holiday activity, so why not give them a go and create your own versions?
Still to come on Gardening Australia, Clarence learns about an iconic summer visitor that needs our help. We can't wait to reveal the new tea and herb garden to Riri. And Hannah visits a berry farm with a family who grow and play together. We have such an incredible diversity of ecosystems around the country, and every animal within them matters. But it's increasingly difficult to tell how they're doing. Over recent years, our iconic Christmas beetles have become harder and harder to spot. Clarence is on his way to find out how we as gardeners can help our beautiful native species.
When you're next walking through a museum, pause for a moment of awe when you find the invertebrate displays. Why? Because 90 to 95% of all the animals on the planet are invertebrates, like insects, spiders and beetles. And they've been around for 300 million years or so. It's estimated there are a staggering 500,000 species of beetle, the majority of which very little is known. However, we have our own iconic native species with which we are all familiar, the Christmas beetle. And I'm at the Australian Museum in Sydney to find out more about this iridescent beauty. Chris Reed is the curator of the beetle collection. G'day, Chris.
Clarence, how are you?
Very well. He's got thousands of specimens locked away in temperature-controlled vaults in the depths of the museum. This is where all the beetles are at?
So this is the beetle collection from here all the way to the wall, and the Christmas beetles are in here.
Now, are all Christmas beetles native to Australia?
They are, yeah. There's about 35 species, and they're all Australian.
Wow.
And they should be coming out around now.
So how many specimens do you have in here?
Well, about 1 million.
Wow.
And thousands of Christmas beetles. There you go.
That's beetle mania, look at that.
This collection is all of Australia, but predominantly it's New South Wales material. This one is the king beetle. This used to be a well-known beetle in the Sydney area, but it seems to have died out.
Wow. They've got some amazing iridescent colour. Does that serve a purpose?
That's something we don't know. It's something we'd like to know, but what's interesting is the really shiny ones are North Queensland, the tropical rainforest species. Yeah. So we don't have this in New South Wales. Most Christmas beetles are feeding on eucalypts, and so eucalypt forest. And most species are therefore up on the dividing range. So you go up to Orange, Bathurst, Blue Mountains, you're looking at 5, 6 species, even on a single tree sometimes.
Generally speaking, what's the life cycle of a Christmas beetle?
Well, the male and female beetle mate on foliage. They live for about a month, 2 months. The female drops to the ground and lays eggs in the soil, and then the egg hatches into a larva, a curl grub, and then the pupa changes into an adult in the soil, and then the adult has to dig its way out.
How do you tell the male from female?
Well, it's difficult, and we really need to be looking down a microscope. So let's go and have a look.
All right.
So as you can see, the male has just got a more abrupt, bigger flange at the front. The female's got a very slight one.
Yeah.
But it's quite subtle.
So what are some of the identifying features of a Christmas beetle?
One is the big spike that comes out from underneath the body, facing forwards. That's found in both sexes. It may be for rolling over rivals when they're feeding. And another characteristic feature is the big front legs for digging through soil.
Yeah, like there's not much sexual...
Entomologists Tanya Latty from Sydney University and Kate Umbers from Western Sydney University have launched a conservation charity, Invertebrates Australia.
Well, that's the thing. They're a good way for people to have, like, a real personal interaction with nature.
Yeah.
I've been working on
Hi, ladies.
Hey.
Now, the big question, are Christmas beetles in decline?
Anecdotally, so many different people seem to have this very strong memory of Christmas beetles being in huge numbers around Christmas time, and that doesn't seem to be happening anymore. So, you know, we see that in literature, we see that in people's memories, and taken together, I think it makes a decent anecdotal case that something is going on.
The two of you have set up this amazing project. What is it about?
It's called the Christmas Beetle Count, and the idea is to get people out there looking for Christmas beetles, taking photos of those Christmas beetles, and uploading them to a site called iNaturalist, which is a giant global database of biodiversity. And then we can use that data to start to answer some of these questions about Christmas beetles.
And look, as a kid, I saw tons of Christmas beetles. I know what, 2 or 3 species of them look like. How do people get to identify these beetles?
Yeah, they can be really tricky. Some of them are really, unique to the areas, and then others are really quite similar to each other. But fantastically, the Australian Museum have an app called the Christmas Beetle ID Guide that is really helpful for this. It's got great imagery, it's been put together by experts, and so we can direct people to download that app and use it to figure out what they might be looking at.
So what can gardeners do to help?
There are heaps of things people can do in their gardens. The first and probably one of the most important is to plant a diversity of native plants, flowering plants, green plants, everything, because that doesn't just help our Christmas beetles, that helps a number of our native invertebrate and insect species. It's really useful to do.
What should gardeners do when they find larvae in the garden?
Look, I mean, I'm biased, but the first thing I would do when I find a larvae is go, wow, look how cool this is, it's beautiful, check it out. It's unlikely to be an infestation. We don't have to use pesticides here. If it's in a potted plant, pop it into your main garden so it's got a spot to burrow back down and you know, emerge, and maybe you'll get a Christmas beetle.
I've been in Australia 15 years now, and I've seen a handful of Christmas beetles. I think it's amazing that there is a place on Earth where an insect is so tied up with like a beloved time of year. I really want to do something to help that, to make sure that future generations get to have that experience.
Yeah, I mean, and for me, it was the classic kind of Sydney childhood with Christmas beetles flying into the fly screen about 10 o'clock at night, and it's warm in December when school's broken up and you're about to start school holidays, like all that really exciting time of the year. And yeah, I don't want Christmas beetles to be a memory. I want Christmas beetles to be something that, you know, future generations have these kind of wonderful memories of interactions with nature at these really exciting times of their lives.
Whether you're weeding or watering, we gardeners can become citizen scientists, helping this important project achieve its aims of finding out if our wonderful native iridescent beauties are on the decline, and what we can do to help. And from me, happy Christmas, Beetle counting.
Okay, what's high on your got-to-eat list for this summer? Mangoes, my favourite. Sweet corn, can't live without it. What about a barrow full of berries? Stop it right there. Well, Hannah's on her way to visit a family farm that's full to the brim.
I'm heading to a berry farm in Nika, around half an hour from Nipaluna, Hobart. Despite being relatively close to the city, Wolf's Berry Farm is in a little rural hamlet nestled on the foothills of Konani, Mount Wellington. This fourth-generation family farm is a bit of an institution around here. They've been growing produce in this part of the world for over 150 years.
What have you got now?
Peter Cundall even visited the farm in season 1 of Gardening Australia.
Good boy.
Every now and then, I get this overwhelming, ancient, ethnic craving for gooseberries, of all things. I love them.
So today, more than 30 years later, hello, I'm heading back to the Wolf's place to see what's growing.
And then you start swearing.
These days, Tom Wolf and his uncle Tony run the farm. In a nod to the family's German heritage, the farm has always grown a lot of old world varieties of European fruits. Now, I haven't grown any gooseberries before, but should I be?
Yes, they're good hardy. This variety, leather jacket, you only get just a little tinge of red, but they stay yellow. Whereas the crown bob here, he'll go really ruby red.
Yeah.
And then they become sweeter, and it makes it even better for cakes and that, because you've got that lovely colour. And then you can have these ones, which are a little bit sour. They're what my grandfather planted early in the piece, and my brother and I kicked it on for my father, and here they are.
Yeah.
And they're my best seller.
Yeah, and they're really hardy and quite easy to grow.
Exactly.
Yeah,
yes,
that's fantastic.
Yes,
So,
yes, they're hardy and good. So
yeah.
Every backyard should have one.
I'm convinced. I will have some.
It takes a pretty strong family connection to run a farm across generations. What's it been like to pick up where your parents have left off?
You know, it's been very interesting to not only now be working with Tony, our relationships changed. You know, where he was just my uncle, now in ways he's my business partner. We have to do things together, and overall we get on pretty well. We don't butt heads, not too much. Sometimes. We lost my dad. Dad and Tony ran the place the generation before us, and it was pretty interesting. We lost Dad pretty suddenly to sort of be, I guess, thrust a little bit into that. But I think what's been really beautiful is just how much we've sort of rallied together. This is not the biggest place. There's bigger farms producing more fruit, but I think what's very special about this place is the history and the family connection. And I think we've got through it all together. You know, we've got through the grief and the sadness, and we've come out the other side, and we're still here, and it's been a really good thing, you know.
You can't tell a story about this family without also talking about music. Each generation has balanced their work on the farm with a love of music. His dad's band once supported AC/DC, and now Tom and his brother Nick are often on tour with their country band.
Is it a wheat field behind a fence line? A 12-gauge pepper on a road sign? Is it a dirt road off the black top?
We're very proud of where we're from, proud of who we are, and we draw upon that and sing about that a lot. A big album for us was an album called Country Heart, and that was sort of written after we lost Dad, and I think we really drew upon this place, you know, and the wonderful memories of growing up and the fruit seasons and working with Tony and Dad and picking, and even though we were working, we were together as a family, you know, and I think we've taken that family unit, that bond, into what we do with music.
It's the song of all its parts. That's why it makes a country heart.
We're so lucky we get to go away and travel and do these things, but coming home, you realise we live really in the best place in the world, and it's very special.
I can see some pretty gnarly thorns down here, Tony. Should I be worried?
Yes. Especially if they get the back of the hand, not nice. So how you pick them is to grab the branch like that, and I pick them towards the middle of the bush.
Yeah.
Because if you grab them, as you can see, they're angled to the middle of the bush, so you're picking them away from the thorn. So if you pick them that way, obviously it's going to grab you. And they're rather nasty.
Yeah.
Yes, but they're really lovely fruit, though. People like eating them, sour, green, and they make a magnificent gooseberry pie.
I can imagine.
With
You must eat very well here in berry season.
Well, actually, I get quite sick of it.
Oh, no.
Okay.
Thank you. These ones are Yosta berries, a thornless hybrid that combines the flavours of gooseberries and black currants. As with raspberries, make sure you prune off the old canes because new growth will provide the fruit. Tony prunes off old canes and aims for a vase shape for better airflow and easier picking. They grow prolifically, so Tony says it's really important to keep on top of pruning or they'll become a thicket. These loganberries look a bit like a, blackberry/raspberry.
Yes, yes. When they get going, they're really purpley colour. They go really deep purple. Beautiful flavour, very lush.
And I can see you've trained them all horizontally.
They're nice and waist high, so you can pick them easy, and you very carefully wind them around the string so that they stay there. And I have been using bits of flax to fix them there, and then they'll grow lovely and lush and make most beautiful juice and jelly.
Yum.
That should be good now for the season ahead.
Perfect.
All they've got to do is ripen up.
Yeah, come on, Summer.
Come on, yeah. And we had that wind,
I
broken
know,
wind
the wind
there.
damage.
Look at that.
Yeah.
That's why you don't want them too lofty.
Yeah. So how old do you reckon this tree is?
This little tree would be somewhere around about 30 years old, I should imagine.
Yeah. These small cherry trees are Kentish cherries, an heirloom variety from England with bright red skin and pale flesh, great for jams and cooking. Here at the farm, they keep the trees pruned low, otherwise the tall crown can get lanky and fragile. These raspberries are from a 100-year-old stock and used to cover large parts of the hillside behind me. They were planted by Tony's grandparents, Tom's great-grandparents, and they're a wonderful reminder of just how long the Wolf family have been harvesting from this farm.
While we don't produce as much fruit as what we used to, what we are really proud of is everything we do grow, we sell. In fact, we could probably grow and sell more. The demand is still there, which is lovely, and we either sell it here in our shop or we take it to farmer markets, and then what we don't sell, we turn into jams and chocolates, and we sell online and ship it across Australia. So it's really wonderful that we're managing and we're keeping it going and we're keeping this family tradition alive.
Keeping the dream alive.
Keeping the dream alive, that's right.
What's it like to see your kids or your nephews and your nieces just thriving at home but also beyond and choosing to come back?
It's very, very lovely.
Yeah.
Feel very proud.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Don't cry. 1, 2, 3.
And now Tom and his wife Ellie are giving another generation the chance to fall in love with this beautiful place.
There's not many people that have a property that's been in the family for this many generations, you know, and like all these things, the easy thing to do would be maybe sell, subdivide and go live in the suburbs, but this is history, this is our family and this is our little piece of the world that we want to keep going for our next
generation.
Yeah.
There are lots of plants that are associated with Christmas. There's the tree, of course, and the cherries you eat, and even the mistletoe that you might steal a kiss under. But also, across Australia, there are local plant species that flower and indicate the coming of the season. In New South Wales, this is known as their Christmas bush. It's Ceratopedilum and it has these beautiful white flowers that age to that lovely coppery red. It's a really nice sort of large shrub in the garden, but no matter where you are, there are plants that indicate Christmas, and I reckon they make the best gardener's gift.
Today we've been creating a no-dig tea patch and putting in some herb planters for Riri, who's visually impaired. It's now time for her to explore the new garden. Now, Riri, I like this reveal because we're going to talk you through it. And what I particularly appreciate about what Manu and you discussed for this garden is that there's multiple layers to it. So first of all, when you're walking through here, you're going to feel a change in texture on the ground because the path goes from grass to mulch. And that way you'll know that you've entered the garden. Now, to give you an idea of where you are, which path you're on, if you lean left and smell that,
Oh.
that's rosemary.
Beautiful. My favourite.
And then to know which path you're near, if you bend down and smell this one.
Lemongrass.
Yeah, lemongrass, exactly. So that's your bearings, the change in texture and the change in smell.
I can just feel what you've made. It's just amazing. I never thought I'd have anything so lovely in my bush garden. I don't know what else to say. I'm sorry. It's really lovely.
Well, come along a bit. And this one here, Riri, is the bronze fennel.
I'm going to get down. I have to say I feel like a little child that's been given everything that I've wanted. Oh, it's wonderful. Thank you.
Oh, yeah, so that's the fennel?
Yeah, so the beauty of that bronze fennel is that once it gets nice and big and bushy, you can brush your hands against it and it feels amazing.
And then this one here,
yeah.
that there's rigani.
Rigani.
Yeah.
Yay! Hooray!
On that side on your left, that's sage.
Sage right there.
What's that one?
German chamomile.
Chamomile.
Yeah.
Chamomile. What's in front over here, Jude?
In the front, just here, we have some lavender.
Lavender.
We've got a whole hedge of lavender.
Oh, a whole hedge of lavender. Hooray! Isn't that exciting? Oh, isn't that wonderful to have garden beds with beautiful herbs? And this used to be like a real no man's land, you know. People, my kids had dumped things here, you know. It's so lovely to have something as beautiful as this. And I can visualise it, how well they're going to grow.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
Well, Riri, this is just the tea garden. We've also got a mint and herb gardens over here.
Yeah, come on, Riri, we'll show you.
Here, I'm right behind you. I've got you going. I've got your walking stick.
You're like a spring, Riri.
Why wouldn't I be after this wonderful surprise? Goodness.
So this bed here, Riri, is like your mint garden. So there's spearmint, normal mint, there's apple mint, there's lemon balm, also a bit of Corsican mint, and even a perennial basil to bring the insects.
That's fantastic.
But Riri, there's another bed. Manu, explain what's going on up there.
Riri, over here we've got all the different herb bed. So there's a lemongrass again, so you can use it as a culinary herb too. And then there's parsley and then dill. So the dill, I know you love dill. And this really special Greek basil. And that's a really special thing that smells beautiful.
Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you.
Dishes.
I'm really touched. I'm actually speechless.
Riri, while we've been down here, a couple of the Farm at Ford volunteers have been up to some mischief on the balcony.
Really?
So there's more. Shall we go and have a look?
All right.
Yeah? You reckon?
Here, I've got you.
The surprise for Riri is that two of Manu's volleys, Elle and Nathan, are planting up herbs in a place where she can easily reach them for her cooking pot. OK, here we go. Oh, Elle, Nathan, that's come up a treat. Well done.
Oh, how beautiful.
Some Greek basil and parsley.
Thank you.
Yeah, so this one's direct access, so you can have access to it easily on your balcony.
Special place. Thank you, Nathan.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Very much. Thank you, Elle. Thank you so much. Must have taken a lot of work to get everything up here.
What an amazing day we've spent here with Riri and the team from Farm It Forward. It goes to show that gardening as an activity really is something that brings everyone together. And when you see Riri, she's a shining example that gardening is for everyone. You know, I'm here to help wherever you live and whatever you want to do in your garden. So a goodwill message from me to you. Here's your fun-packed list of summer jobs for the weekend. In cool areas, keep your broccoli pumping. Scatter seeds on free-draining mix, cover with vermiculite and keep well watered as they grow. Annual weeds like chickweed, milk thistle and dock should be tackled now before they have time to develop roots, set seed and take over. It's the last chance to get your capsicums in. Plant seedlings into fluffy soil with manure mixed through. Pick a sunny spot and space them about 30 centimetres apart. In warm areas, prepare your irrigation for the summer holidays. Flush out drip lines to dislodge any grit and check sprinkler heads are in good working order. Get crafty and make your own seed tape or infused gift cards. It's a great way to give the gift of gardening. Find all the details on our website. Take your garden with you in a portable herb basket. Line a basket with plastic with holes for drainage, then plant mint, thyme and basil to enjoy on the road. In subtropical areas, Varroa rhododendrons are in the spotlight. Protect from drying sun and wind and feed with a dilute fertiliser now. Prune back trees by a third to help prevent wind damage. Smaller plants are less likely to snap and they'll have fewer leaves to keep hydrated. Bergamot or bee balm attracts beneficial bees and hoverflies. Cut flowering stems to one pair of leaves at the base to encourage new blossoming stems. In tropical areas, take advantage of the warm weather and bump out some leaf mould. It's made entirely of composted leaves and is perfect for homemade potting mixes or mulches. Keep an eye on your plants for signs of fungal disease that can be more common during the wet season. Remove infected foliage and treat with organic fungicides. Take your cooking to the next level and track down an edible pandanus. Famed for the nutty fragrance it brings to dishes, the leaves can also be used to bundle food. In arid areas, basil grows fast in the heat. To ensure a tasty harvest, prune off flower heads and steep them in tea. Apply liquid feed for some more leafy growth. Kangaroo apples are hopping into season. Green fruit is not edible, so allow the fruits to drop and ripen off the tree. Enjoy fresh or stewed. Sea holly is sending up spectacular flowers, attracting bees and butterflies. Deadhead regularly and mulch well to keep their shallow roots cool. That should have you set for the months ahead. Remember, we've got all your favourite episodes on iView to make sure you have a cracker of a summer. Well, that's it for this year. I hope you get lots of time to spend with family and friends over the weeks ahead. From all of us here at Gardening Australia, we'll be back next year and can't wait to see you then.
Jingawa. From my family to yours, have a safe and happy holiday. Spend some time in the garden. Spend some time with your loved ones. And have a great Christmas.
And enjoy the holiday. I hope I'll get some time in my garden, just playing and relaxing, and I hope you do too.
Happy holidays. Here's to a plant-filled 2024.
Frohe Weihnachten.
Happy holiday season with family and friends, and of course, have plenty of fun.
Veliki Vánoce.
And I hope there's lots of gardening goodies under your tree.
Joyeux Noël.
Have a gorgeous gardening summer, everyone.
Wishing you a happy and safe festive season.
See you later, everyone. I hope you have a fantastic summer. Stuff your face with all of those delicious summer veggies.
Have a happy holiday. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays.
Merry Christmas, everyone. Have a fantastic...
And of course, have a happy new year.
We're having a summer break and I hope you get plenty of time in your garden. I know I am.
We're going to have a beautiful few weeks off and can't wait to see you next year.
I'm looking forward to some more time with my family and in the garden, and I hope you get the same.
Kala Christuyena. Merry Christmas. Have a great break. See you in 2024.